first step in looking into new professions of the future, how to make it, what knowledge you should have at the starting point, and what skills to develop right now. That's the topic of our next discussion with Valerii Babushkin, expert in machine learning, team lead in Facebook. Hi everyone, my name is Valerii Babushkin. It's my second AI journey. Thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me. I would like to say thank you very much to the viewers. Thank you for staying with us and listening to my presentation. Probably this is a prereq, but anyway, thank you very much. Well, I can say it's my first time because my first time was on real stage, and this is the first time in online. My presentation is the path of 1000 li. What does it mean? Probably it is not clear. From the title, I'll tell you everything right now. So sometimes you have a period when you just speak about what you had in the past, and that's what I'm going to speak today. How I went through this path and how I got to this data science industry. What I was working with, I was told that my audience today is students, young specialists, school children, people with not much experience, work experience. Obviously, such people should know what others went through and what they ended up doing. Probably it might be interesting for those who are interested in data science, in artificial intelligence, those who are thinking about where to go to work. I have 40 minutes and I'll try and take 33 minutes. I have my timer on, and then I will answer questions if any, and if none, then you will have 5, 7 or 10 minutes to refresh before the next speaker starts. So my presentation is split into three blocks. First block is a couple of words about me, just for you to understand why I'm speaking about this, why I allow myself speaking about it, and what questions you might ask, because questions you can ask a person depend on what he knows and what his knowledge is, and then my background, education background, and then I will give you ML and DS cases from various areas. And the majority of companies I worked for are mostly in retail, and that's why I probably will focus more on retail. My favorite part about me, interestingly enough, over the recent 18 months, I've been skipping this part in my presentations, but it is here. Why? We've just recorded a video in ML system design, and we had interviews on system designs in machine learning. Many views on YouTube, but comments were, guys, that's great, but who are you? Good question. If I thought that it's bad if I speak about myself. If I do not speak about myself, it is also bad. People say you are too focused on yourself. So I thought that both ways are not good. But I thought that you can just skip a part of content if you're not interested. But if there is no content like that, it's hard to find sometimes. So I'm speaking about myself now. I work in Facebook in London now. I lead several teams in WhatsApp Central Integrity. We work with fighting against fraudsters. We work in data privacy. And before, I worked in Russia. 3 companies I worked for are on the screen. They are all from retail. X5 Retail Group, where I was senior director of data science. We had a large team of 150 people. mostly people, guys who worked in machine learning data analysis, and we had project managers and front-enders. I worked for Yandex Market, also a retail thing. Our group was called AML R&D, ML Pirates, and we worked on various email development. Other teams did not work with that. Either it was not their priority, or they thought that it was impossible. And I worked for Alibaba Russia. AliExpress Russia is another title of it. Vice President for Machine Learning. Director for Modeling and Analysis of Data. We prepared various interesting things there. We had to set up a team. In 2020, when I was working there in February, a new CTO was appointed, and the company started the journey in Russian development, and this process is still underway. Now it is mostly Russian company, not Chinese. And I lectured at the Higher School of Economics at Computer Sciences Department at the National Bank of Kazakhstan. So I have some academic experience, but mostly my experience comes from the industry. I worked in machine learning quite successfully, and I have a grandmaster status on the competition. Now I am number 23, but it's not enough. Of course, you have to run very fast to stay where you are. So I stopped being as active, but I actually anyway have my status of grandmaster from the past, and that's great to have such status. Now, how I achieved what I have today. Those who are studying now or graduate now sometimes face a problem. For instance, I studied for 5 years, or I plan to go to a university, but why did I have my course? I do not know anything now. Yes, there are various internships starting grade 3 in majority of universities, but many people are thinking about, what do I know? That's why I decided to speak about my background, my experience, to show you a story showing that even with any background, you can go into an area you're interested in if you work hard enough. In 2012, I graduated from Moscow Polytechnic University, Moscow State University for Environmental Engineering, or Chemical University is another previous title of it, and I decided to make a PhD and become candidate of sciences. I went there, but I didn't finish the process. I went to DoD German stipend program, and they told me that I can. My application is submitted and confirmed, and I went there to study for mechatronics. Probably it's something similar to robotics. This is mechanics, automatics, and programming combined in one, and also some engineering in it. And I studied there for a year. I cannot say that that type of education was better than that of in Russia, but since it was applied course, we had a lot of opportunities to do things with microcontrollers and various types of equipment, various machines. You just had to know what you want to do, but that's a challenge most of the time. So I was thinking about what I should do, and I got back to Russia and went to Digital Control Incorporated as electronics technician. This company produced for horizontal drilling. They produced location systems. For instance, there is a drilling machine under the ground, and we should locate it probably, and this locator should give us all information on exact location of the device. I worked there. This is great work because you work for 4 hours a week and you have much time to do nothing or to develop yourself. Of course, it's hard to select self-development, and sometimes you just want to do nothing and you are drowning in this. But I thought that 23 is too early for retirement, and decided to go into a different company that worked in infrared spectrometry and chemometrics. And that's where I faced machine learning. And I didn't know that it was machine learning. FOSS is producing analyzers for food industry. There are two types of such analyzers, chemical and infrared. Infrared analyzer, what it does, there is a beam of infrared light, and beam is many sensors, because beam of light has different wavelengths, and we have a sample. We send the beam inside it, and we see how radiation is changing on each wavelength. For instance, we give 100%, and we have as an output 100 or more. For those who are aware of machine learning, there are features, changes of radiation on each wavelength. We have a label, we have a target, for instance, and what this sample contains, how much protein or fat or something like that. This is food industry, and you should create a model that finds these links, and instead of using chemical approaches to analysis, we just send a beam of light. You do not need acids or anything like that for analysis. We call it mathematic methods in chemistry. We used the devices that were not very large, but we used the method of main components to find anomalies. We used region lasso regression and neural networks, also using various methods of validation, k-fold validation, Lichtman-out validation. So you see, we tried to reduce the errors and created ensembles. So this is applied machine learning as it is, actually. And the error we could tolerate is just small portion of percentage, so it's not full figures. But we had a very good, robust model, and it worked effectively. But at the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, my boss told me, "Valerii, have you heard about data science?" I thought it sounds serious and very complicated. There is Johns Hopkins specialization in Coursera in data science. I was interested. I learned R, the programming language. I thought that it was quite logical and very good language. Intuitively, it is probably more logical than many standard programming languages. I went through 3 courses. I thought that I'm quite confident in such skills. And when I looked at data science and machine learning, I realized that I do the same work. So data science and machine learning, what machine learning is all about is clear, but data science in 10 various companies can be 10 different things. But where I work now, data science is product analytics. But in Russia, data science mostly mean machine learning. But probably it's just a section of the whole thing. So I worked in FOSS for 2 years and went through the courses of Johns Hopkins, and then I thought that I should go somewhere where I mostly work in machine learning. I worked in machine learning, but at factories and labs. For quality assessment, I had 50 or 60 business trips a year, and that was not very comfortable. This is not very comfortable at all. And I thought, okay, fine, sitting in a nice and cozy warm office and develop and program something, this is very good. So I had 2 options, to go to X5 or Открытие, and I decided to go to Открытие bank. I worked in machine learning in the bank and became senior data scientist. I had two years experience in machine learning studies, so that's why this position did not come just from nowhere. That's why speaking about how you can transfer experience from one industry to another, yes, it is possible. And I had offers from not only this bank but several other companies. But it was 2016, and it was a wild field. No one knew among those who are hiring. No one knew what it is all about. Now the situation is different, but at that point of time, it was not like today. I worked there for several months. In August 2017, Открытие Bank went bankrupt. It was senated, and there were some things I didn't like out there. So I decided to go to interviews. So I already had real experience being senior data scientist. I had good experience at that point of time already accumulated. I had interviews with Sber, they didn't take me, and I then was able to go to Yandex or X5. So it was my dream to work for Yandex, and I then went to Yandex to work. So I worked both for Yandex and X5. So you know how the story ended. So I started working in Yandex. And simultaneously with that, 2017 started. 2017 is probably the first serious crypto boom. And as any adventurous person, late 2017, beginning of 2018, I invested into several startups. One of them is Moneta, a coin, a Lithuanian startup. Through ICO, they raised 150 millions. They used Ethers. It's now $6,000 or $7,000. So they didn't turn everything into cash, but these guys are okay now. And Cognive. But Moneta, what did they do? It was like PayPal and Amazon in blockchain for you to do e-commerce, and your track record and your reputation is in blockchain, and people can really understand who you are through the system. Cognive prepared anti-fraud systems for banks on machine learning. For banks, it's a huge problem. If a fraud is identified or money laundering, they can be fined, and this means huge sums of money. They have rules and analysts and investigators, and when rules tell them something, they try to actually understand whether they are right or not. This is a good task for machine learning indeed. So no one really knew this sphere well enough, but if we look at the experience of FOSS starting 2014 up until 2017, 2018, it was 3 or 4 years of machine learning experience in various areas, and Yandex is in addition to that. So you see how it developed. I almost moved to Lithuania, but decided not to because my wife was against it. But I think my experience at that point of time was quite good. It's great to be part of a large corporation because such corporations have very experienced people on the team. Large corporation, for instance, Yandex is a large corporation, and there are experts around. You can learn from them. You can have a look at best practices and how processes work, and then you can go to a startup where the situation is different, and you can have more universal experience. Large corporation is something that is going in depth, and then bureaucracy. Yes, bureaucracy is also there, the red tape, but in startups, usually it is very quick and processes are fast and sometimes chaotic, but if you just try to select between the two, a startup or a corporation, you need to ask yourself a question: what do I want to have? And people sometimes want to optimize such things like money, and they look at money and salaries. If someone pays 30,000 rubles more than another place, sometimes, yes, you can go there. Whether this will change your life for the better or for worse, probably you should invest into yourself now. I know that this audience is quite young. The audience is quite young. Young audience, and you might understand that the price of error with time is growing. When you're young, you can make mistakes, you can accumulate your experience, and that's very important. So just look at opportunities that emerge and what experience they can give you. Apart from that, apart from all these jobs, I also became part of a great community, Open Data Science. I think you've heard about it. this is a Slack channel, but this is more than that. This is a series of events. This is a series of various meetups in various cities. Slack channel actually is covering more than 60,000 people now. DataFest, probably you've also heard about it before, and many other things. And at that point of time, they have Kaggle Cracked, a very active channel, and a sub-channel devoted to competitions. Due to some reasons, these channels are not as active today because administration of Kaggle thinks that if you discuss something and you do not discuss this at Kaggle, this is not good and you might be punished for that. And that's why all good discussions about open channels are fading and dying. And I started my first competitions in computer vision. It was 2017, and it was very interesting. At that point of time, it was time of UNet.
It was segmentation contests, and it turned out that just in a few days or a few weeks before the end of the contest, I was in gold, but I didn't have the server with GPU, and CPU servers count 20 days before the contest, but that was not enough time. I proposed to join with Noise with Artur Kuzin, who is heading the computer vision platform in Sberbank. Before that, he was heading the neural department in X5. You see how it is all connected. So we met in 2017, and in chat and Slack, we took part in some contests. Yevgeny Zhibitsky is now working in computer vision in AliExpress, and Roma Trusov is other colleague of ours, but he moved away. We met a few people. We are still communicating. Many of from our team live in London. For example, Arseny lives not in downtown, but in 2 hours from London. Noise in Moscow. Volodya is heading Reaction is in San Francisco now, and we see each other from time to time. Well, the community is a great power, you know, both in terms of knowledge, in terms of motivation, and finding a job. If you make something together, people know you. And if you're even not so interested in terms of money, it's going to be the best evaluation whether you should be hired or not. We took gold, we become friends, and we are still friends. ODE, it's not the only community, you know. There are a lot of things. We are, at least here at AIJ, journey marks the third year of its existence. When I started to deal with it, there wasn't so many courses, events, communities, and other things. Now it's much better. There were only trainings on machine learnings, where I started to visit and started to meet people there, and the course on statistics from Anatoly Karpov. Now there's a bunch of things, everything. There's Sberbank University, Yandex Practicum, Karpov courses, which we did together with Karpov. Well, there are conferences, this conference here. There's a huge amount of different events. DataFest. DataFest was organized first time in 2016. Everything was just in the beginning. Now it's much better. FKN programs, something you can find on Innopolis. That's a great time for you to invest in your development, in your training and learning. Okay, then we have not so much time, but still we have time. We have 17 minutes left, plus 7 minutes for questions and answers. Now I'd like to move to case studies, to the application examples. I'd like to repeat, since I was working in retail, most of my examples will come from retail. People ask questions often if I have a business or I come to a business. What can I do? And what can I do more to earn money? Machine learning. How can I use machine learning? Let's speak about machine learning, because data science is a very huge field. Analytics, everything else. But data learning is more specific. One of the classical tasks is demand forecast. And sales and demand is in any company. You can be a bank. There is a demand for withdrawal cash from ATMs. You can be a Petorachka. You can demand for food and any other business. You can be a marketplace. You can be even a search engine, and you can have demand for your advertising. How many people want to have advertising on your platform, or how many people would visit your website? As practice shows, it all can be forecasted with more or less error rate. Different hedge funds are dealing with this. There are a few strategies. I'm not a big specialist, but I heard something about it. You can be very fast, very quick, work in nanoseconds. You can be a little bit slower, and you can work in milliseconds and be smart. Or you can renaissance. You can be in renaissance, not renaissance insurance, of course. But if you take a look, a hedge fund of renaissance, it's not so popular. But this is the most successful hedge fund. Not many people know about it, but it's been 20 years for profit for them, and it's incredible. Quite a simple example showing us that future forecasting is possible. On top of that, there are a lot of marketing things everywhere. And if there are marketologists, there are a lot of marketologists, and marketing is also there. People spend money on marketing and not always efficiently. What does it mean, efficiently or inefficiently? Let's imagine a simple example. There is a marketologist, a marketing guy. He has average sales of 8%. It means that out of 100 people who visited, 8 would buy. Let's call it conversion. Probably it's not a visitor, but the visitor of a website who would add the goods to the basket. And the marketologist wants to increase the sales by marketing. He sells the discount, and oh, you see, it's now 10% and not 8. The bad purchasers would say that my marketing company brought me 10% of sales. But obviously it's not like that. Probably it was 8, now it's 10. It brought only 2% of sales in absolute values, or 25% of relative, because 2 of 10 is 25%. It seems okay, because 25% it's a serious thing, serious increment. But if you think more, out of this 10%, 8 bought anyway, but I gave them the discount. If they didn't get this discount, they would have bought it anyway. It means that on them I lost on them. I should give discount only those people who won't buy without it, and not to give it to others. There are things when you offer a discount to somebody and they just churn from your service. It happens not often. For example, you have a subscription for your online cinema. You send, Valerii, please move from HD to Ultra HD. It will cost not 300 but 150 rubles. Valerii would remember, oh, well, that was a subscription, but I don't use it. Let me drop it. Well, probably that was not a good move. So the cost-effective thing, cost-effective approach works to this loyalty, allows you to work with loyalty. Promo forecasting, it is related closely to forecasting. If you visit stores, you can find yellow price tags. What is this? It's a promo. You can make a good promo. People would come and buy more if they would have bought without it. Whether it's good or not, probably they will buy 10 times more milk and then won't come for you in another 10 weeks. So it is also can be evaluated. I'm going to just go over it superficially. I will leave more questions, time for questions. Pricing, our favorite topic. What I like there, it brings money all the time if you do it correctly. It's not always possible to do it correctly from the first time, but if you did, that's obvious. In the perfect case, if we sell something, we want to sell it once for infinite amount of money. And we have the endless amount of money if we manage to do this. In the real life, it's not possible, because there couldn't be endless amount of money. They could be competitors who could sell for less than internal amount of money. So we'd like to sell in a way to increase our margin or turnover or number of pieces of product, and for that we set a price. The price could be set manually or it can be set by smart algorithms. But the question is, as soon as we start to use our model, we put the whole assortment, we don't take into account the influence factor of this model for the prices we set. This is a loop which looks like trading. If in trading you have a model which is very good at forecasting what happens, and you know what happens and start to act, but the model didn't take into account that you started to act. You need the second model, which would tell you what will happen if you start acting on the first day. And this is just a rabbit hole. Here in pricing, this is very good. It all brings money all the time. The price algorithm set the prices. The algorithm sets prices better than human. This difference can be huge and very huge, but this is always a huge success. Then the dynamic pricing can be there. You can set different prices for different people. It might seem a discrimination, but I know that in China they set a very high price, and then each user get different discount. Can I give different discount to any people? Would it be a discrimination? No. Well, that's okay. So you have different discounts, and this is zero, but the price is changing. We're just subsidizing. That's it. Computer vision. I couldn't but mention it because I mentioned Artur Kuzin and Evgeny Nizhebitsky, and I feel myself as on a TV show. I can say hello to them. The computer vision is there in Sber, in AliExpress, and in retail group. Obviously, in Yandex we have this picture search. It is used everywhere, and using it, a bunch of tasks could be solved, from face recognition, which is successfully done in many places, document recognition, up to the X5 task, empty shelves. That was our task there. If you enter the store, there's empty shelf, but there are products in the warehouse. They didn't even have time to put it on the shelf. You bought it, but you didn't sell. The user then would go to your competitor. Then you start scandaling with the forecasters, saying, how come that you set this quantity, but we sold more, but we just didn't have time to place it on the shelf. Of course, you can put people more there checking and running around the store and replacing and replenishing, or we don't think that some goods would more faster than others, so we can place some cameras, and if we see the critically low levels, we can replenish it at once. Face recognition are wonderful things too, because plastic loyalty cards are used everywhere, despite the young people. You have a lot of cards of that. This is very convenient and not quite environmental. They can be broken or lost, but it's very hard to lose your face. So your face can be used as a unique identifier. Another problem starts of the data privacy and so on and so forth. And by the way, data privacy and ethical questions. If we have a lot of people working, we have a big bulk of data. Why shouldn't we try to solve tasks? How well will a person feel if we hire this person and we will not hire others who won't feel well in our company? Will it be discrimination or not? Well, we wouldn't tell people that we would do this, but we can try to forecast when the person would churn. We can see some signals. The person is a little bit unhappy, disgruntled. Probably we should make it to feel more happy or start seeking for his replacement. This is an anti-utopia world where machines would tell people what to do with other people. I've never seen the working analytics. I saw only when people spoke about it, but I didn't see what they really did. And I presume that no normal HR data recordings. On top of that, a huge dispersion of variation. What can be done theoretically is not solved practically. Although, why do this? Because you have wonderful pricing. I'm coming to an end, and you see that I do not touch upon all topics. We can go deeper, for example, forecasts of demand. We have, and our expert guys have very long presentations, 1.5 hours, but again, not possible to touch upon all the topics. We're going very quickly. And two more things. Maybe not all of you, but very many faced chatbots and voice assists, and probably you were aggressive and angry with them, but the vast majority of calls coming to the call centers, very standard things, and can be solved by chatbots and voice assists. Normally, they're much cheaper than people. They don't sleep. They don't need money. They don't drink, well, which is already very good, and they do not quit. And in general, voice assists, there are so many. There's Alisa, Marusia, Alisa from Yandex, Marusia from Mail, Oleg from Tinkoff. I don't remember what's the name from Tinkoff, from Sberbank. Even Alpha Bank has one. I entered the application, and the robot offered me a chat. Well, it wasn't so interesting for me, but just for the example. What else can I tell you in the left 30 seconds? Well, I moved beyond my limits. Auctions. If you buy something from many vendors, or if you sell something, for example, you sell advertising, you have a certain proposal, a banner engine, but you want to set up an auction which wouldn't be abused, you can see the auction of first price, second price, stochastic auctions. Everything can be used, can be applied, and you can make your tenders more fair. On that point, I'd like to finish, and basically I told you everything I wanted, what I did, how I reached that, and why we did that in specific companies.